Hello and welcome to the Shroom stream presented by Psychedelic Spotlight. I'm your co-host, Greg in good company with Riley Cote, our resident former tough guy hockey player turned meditation coach, spiritual advisor, psychedelic connoisseur, teacher, and we're joined by Adam Bramlage. Am I pronouncing our last name correctly?
You nailed it.
All right, Adam Bramlage, as you see, founder of Microdoser, founder of Microdosing Facilitator Training, which you can learn more about at flowstatemicro.com. And we're going to be getting into a very popular topic today, probably the most popular, trendy topic in all of the psychedelic space, microdosing, which has been quite popular for many years now, and it just continues to grow and grow, especially because of efforts like your company, Adam, which is training the facilitators of tomorrow today, and allowing, which gives more people access, and more importantly, gives people understanding of how to use this modality. And I'm pretty sure anyone, especially anyone tuning in to this live or they catch us at a later date, they're familiar with microdosing to some extent. I think like my grandma understands what microdosing is in theory, but I think microdosing in practice is probably quite different than the general understanding. So, Adam, I wanted to kind of just start there. What is microdosing in actual practice?
Yeah, so microdosing is the use of non-intoxicating doses of psychedelics to enhance creativity, performance, and to help with everything from mental health and anxiety to addiction. A lot of people like to say that microdosing is an addiction disruptor. So in the last decade, microdosing has really broken through into the general population. Especially for its helpfulness in mental health with depression and anxiety. I actually met Riley years ago as he was coming out of the NHL in the microdosing and the psilocybin and the cannabis world. So it's great to see you again, Riley. Thanks for having me here. And microdosing is not just taking this small dose one time. It's using this dose over a repeated schedule over the course of weeks or months or many months. So it might be taking it 3 times a week. More often than not, some people are taking it 4 or 5 days during the week. So it's the repeated use of psychedelics in non-intoxicating doses to improve and enhance your life.
I'm curious, given how popular it is, and I'm sure, I mean, there's like a different article from a different publication covering it every day. If you're keeping tabs on this topic on like Google News or something, um, what are some of the kind of myths you see out there about microdosing being kind of propagated? What are the some of the misunderstandings you're seeing out there being pushed around the media, if any?
Yeah, just that microdosing works for everybody and that psychedelics are for everybody. You know, it's really
Mm.
important to mention that psychedelics are not for everybody and microdosing is not for everybody. So let's be clear that microdosing is not a cure-all. It's not a magic pill. There's a lot of work and integration and all kinds of stuff that goes on with it, which is why we founded this training program. Is we had all kinds of doctors and therapists and clinicians reaching out to us and wondering how they could actually work with their clients, because what we're finding is that people these days are finding microdosing way more approachable than a large dose experience, right? There's less pre and post integration. There's less time intoxicated by the substance. People are microdosing in their day-to-day life. So we're seeing it's a more accessible starting point and a safer starting point for people than the large dose experience. So in the same way that when I worked in the cannabis space, education and busting myths was important and teaching people how to use cannabis safely and effectively was important, it's the same in psychedelics. So it's really important as it becomes more and more popular and millions of people are trying it for the first time that we're educating not only professionals, but coaches on how to facilitate and teach people how to use this effectively. Forbes just came out with an article last week that said in 2023, 3 million people in the US alone Google searched the term microdosing. So we know that there's at least 3 million people who are willing to put it into Google.
Mm.
And that's not to mention all the people using DuckDuckGo and VPNs and hidden addresses and all that. So we really want to make sure that people know how to use this safely and effectively, because you can microdose wrong, especially when you're microdosing with a mushroom like penis envy, which I had a crazy experience with one of Riley's hockey buddies in Colorado one time, where they gave me what they called a microdose, and then people were turning into lizards, and I was tripping for 6 to 8 hours. So it can be very, very scary. And if you're working with LSD, let's remember that we're dealing in micrograms, which is millionth of a gram. That's like thousands of times stronger than psilocybin. So if somebody thinks they're microdosing LSD and they actually take a mini dose to a large dose, it can be very, very dangerous and very scary. And so that's why we really wanted to create this first of its kind training and really start to train the coaches and the facilitators and the doctors and the therapists and the social workers and the nurses, and the Reiki masters and the massage therapists and the breathwork facilitators how to add this microdosing modality to their practice.
Wow. And so when I was looking at flowstatemicro.com, it really was amazing to see how many different careers, professions this applies to. But before we get into that, I want to kick it to Riley. Let's talk about that penis mushroom, penis envy mushroom experience he's teasing here. What's going on? What's the full story here? You can't bring that up and only give us a tease.
Well, if I recall correctly, I wasn't there. I heard this after the fact. So maybe Adam is probably the guy to ask about the
Yeah,
story.
so
But
I
I
won't
think
name
it's,
any names, but Riley
yeah,
has some pretty well known friends in the hockey space that he's helped introduce to mushrooms. And I went skiing with this individual, and yeah, he just gave me a mushroom that was way too strong. Maybe it was a microdose for him because he's 240 pounds of muscle and I'm not. But that's why training is important. You know, I had the experience of going down to Jamaica with Riley and doing a large dose ceremony literally when COVID broke out. So, you know, I was so honored to sit in that large day space with you in Jamaica, Riley. That was amazing.
yeah, that was, and we almost got stuck in Jamaica, if I remember correctly, too. There, it was like literally they were shutting down airports. It was a crazy time, but it was yeah, it was an amazing time to connect with you, and obviously sitting with larger dose, a little different experience than the micros, but nonetheless equally as powerful in its own right. So
And Riley, remind people, kind of your experience, because this is episode 2 with you on now, and just give the audience a refresher, quick history of you, real quick, for people who are just tuning in who might not be familiar with you, and talk about kind of your entryway into microdosing and a little bit about your experience with it.
sure, yeah. So in my previous life, I was a professional hockey player. Not much of a hockey player, more of a hockey brawler. Spent most of my time in the penalty box. Repeated head trauma led me down this path of healing. I started with cannabis, started using that intentionally, then psilocybin, more on the macro level. It wasn't until a few years later that I really started to understand this world of microdosing in a different bucket, just a different, same substance, just different mechanism, just different pathway and different utility. And yeah, and it's been just as I say, a staple in my life, is part of my daily regimen. I go through different cycles off and on, but it was really around the brain. It was around repeated head trauma. You can call it TBI, or you could call it concussion related issues, but I wasn't right. I retired from playing at 28 years old, and this has been an amazing catalyst. I think, on a large dose, I think we talked about this in the first episode there, Greg. It just helped me make sense of who I was, shedding the old Riley, the hockey player, the fighter Riley, and kind of spat me out on this path of, recreating myself and kind of finding myself. And then obviously healing is a series of modalities, right? I mean, it's not just pick one thing and we're good to go, right? I mean, we got to take care of the body. We got to take care of the mind. We have to take care of our relationships, and we have to stay close to nature, and all these things that, as the journey progressed, that I make more sense of, you know, the healing journey and what it takes, how much discipline it actually takes to stay sane in this crazy world. So that's kind
Yeah.
of the nuts and bolts of it.
I was just thinking, like, like your healing story is like quite dramatic. You're talking about TBI, traumatic brain injury. You were a brawler in hockey for many years, retired at 28, which is pretty young to retire from a sport, which is emphasizes how much kind of abuse your body took. But I do think, I would venture to say that everyone needs healing to some degree. And I think that's why psychedelics is, this renaissance that we've been seeing the last 10 years or so. It's like, I think that no matter what, just what you said, this world is so crazy that it's like everyone has some type of trauma, even if it's just from being on Twitter too much. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there is something out there that we need to heal from, and I think that's why this is such um, a popular topic. I remember when I was managing editor of Psychedelic Spotlight, one of my favorite articles we did was called "Moms on Mushrooms," and great journalist Kiki Dai did a great story for us about moms who are microdosing for several reasons. A big one was, gosh, I'm blanking the name, but post traumatic stress of pregnancy, and then also too, just like I think like it was a lot. If a kid comes into your life, it's a lot, and using this as a way to deal with that. And I thought that was a really interesting application. Adam, any thoughts on what are some of the ways that people you have seen using microdosing to heal?
Well, let's talk about Moms on Mushrooms. We've got their founder, Tracy T. She's teaching one of our classes in the training about microdosing for parents and how to facilitate the experience for moms and dads. I'm a single dad to 2 kids. I know Riley has 2 beautiful daughters as well. And microdosing is life-changing for parents. Even Ayelet Waldman wrote about it in A Really Good Day. I mean, it was just life-changing. As a parent, you're not reacting in the same ways when the child is spilling the milk. You're calmer. You're not defaulting to negativity as much. It's really a groundbreaking modality for parents. I have worked with mothers who reach out to me after a week and they're like, Adam, I love my kids again. Thank you
Mm,
so much. Like, I just haven't been able to enjoy them. And I'm finally getting out of my mind and back into my heart. And I'm learning how to enjoy them. So for parents, it's an incredible modality. And it's important to note, like Tracy talks about often on Moms on Mushrooms, and she was on Dr. Phil, and they were trying to grill her about it. And she just brought up again, this is non-intoxicating, right? Nobody's getting high. It's not even noticeable. And most moms' options are Chardonnay and pills.
mm,
Um, and that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with wine clubs being okay, and polydrugging with wine being okay. But we want to give moms a hard time for thinking about using 100 milligrams of a mushroom
mm.
and completely changing their life. I know that microdosing has been incredibly healing for me, as a parent, also as a human. And I think it's really helpful for mothers potentially with the postpartum, of having a baby and raising a child and all of those new roles. And there are even groups right now that are doing surveys, having to do with moms that are microdosing while breastfeeding and whether or not it actually crosses the barrier into the children's breast milk. It's fascinating. So I think this is going to be a great tool and a much safer tool for moms and dads than alcohol ever was.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's like alcohol is, as we've seen on repeat, is just exacerbates the problems they're trying to um, treat through the app through drinking. Riley, any experience, any thoughts from you on moms or dads on mushrooms?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've seen a few different interesting things for sure. I mean, let's say the moms, I see like the hockey parents, right? It's like it's the same thing Adam's kind of alluding to. You got stressed out parents hustling and bustling to get their kids to the hockey rink and get to the rink, and they're freaking out and they're living vicariously through their kids, and they're all this pressure is put on. So I think it's all some bit connected, but being less reactive to the world. So just maybe just being able to breathe at the rink, or the soccer field or whatever, just like pausing a little bit, not being so reactive to what's going on, the ref, the play, the kid made a mistake. I think it certainly has helped calm some people. I see this whole world of performance too, like highly functioning executives to dental surgeons to professional athletes. I mean, Adam mentioned the creativity piece and the world of performance. It's obviously it addresses anxiety to some capacity because it brings you to the present moment, but it just helps you get you out of your head, as you mentioned, also, and you into the heart. So these sports, hockey, soccer, these are read and react sports. These are creative sports. You have to think and move and maneuver on the fly. So I think it's amazing how the feedback you get from these guys. And again, like I said, the dental surgeon too, like, you think of these guys, like how precise they need to be, right? And how focused they need to be. So it's obviously helping them manage their anxiety and their depression. These are human beings dealing with, same stressors we are. So to be able to take a substance that's, taboo to modern culture and use it in a very precise way and have the results that these guys are having is pretty incredible. So all across the board, addiction too, right? I mean, Adam was talking about that, just from alcohol addiction, cigarette addiction, all kinds of tobacco. I mean, a lot of chewing tobacco and hockey, and just food addiction, right? Just the cravings. I think it just helps curb the cravings. So it's been nothing short of, I say, miraculous when you start piecing these stories together and just looking at it from a 50,000 foot view and saying, wow, like how can the same capsule affect all these different people in all these different ways? And I think it just comes back to the intelligence of nature, and in this case, the intelligence of the mushroom. And it's helping the body find balance. It's just bringing some sort of homeostasis back to the body there. So into the mind and into the spirit, the emotional body. So profound. Hi, Danielle.
Hi, everybody. I'm so honored to be here with you guys.
Likewise.
Hey, Danielle, welcome to the Shroom stream. She is co-founder, along with Adam, of microdosing facilitator training, flowstatemicro.com. Danielle, perfect timing. We're talking about moms on mushrooms, or parents on mushrooms, and how it can be beneficial for people in that responsibility, in that role in life. Would you like to join the conversation and give your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to weave into your consciousness here today. My niche within the space is really educating around psychedelics and microdosing as a treatment for addiction, and helping people interrupt the process of addiction, and also supporting people that are weaning off of harmful substances, even psychiatric drugs, through the use of microdosing. I used to be addicted to drugs for 15 years, both street drugs and prescription drugs prescribed by doctors. Nothing helped me until I discovered psychedelics and microdosing completely interrupted the process of addiction for me and helped me transform out of the identity of addiction. And I'm a huge advocate for people reclaiming their power. And I think that microdosing specifically is a really gentle but powerful way that people can support themselves and create a new relationship with substances and with themselves. As we like to say, a side effect of microdosing is falling back in love with yourself. And oftentimes the root of trauma, the root of addiction, the root of human suffering is rooted in self-hatred and the fragmentation of our spirit. And just as you were talking about earlier, the consciousness of these medicines, they have an intelligence and they have an ability to reconnect us with our soul and our spirit. And that can be so lost in, the material world or within the matrix that we're all living in. So I'm really, I'm really excited about humanity reconnecting from out of fragmentation and into reconnection with their spirit.
Love that. Accurate. True. I think we all can agree to that statement. Before we get into flow state micro, what you guys do, who it's right for, who it's not right for, how to get involved, what the program looks like. I wanted to bring up because okay, so as a journalist, you know, you're looking at covering psychedelics. A lot of it is looking at studies and stuff, and just seeing the conversation. And it seemed one thing that I remember coming up repeatedly was placebo effect, and various studies kind of contradicting each other. And at the time, um, it was the studies that were supporting microdosing were largely kind of users generated. It was like surveying people who say, "Yeah, I microdose," versus like more kind of clinical studies, which I'm sure has maybe changed recently. I've been out of loop a little bit. So, Adam, I want to toss it to you. What are your thoughts on that? You're kind of smiling. I feel like you're familiar with this debate in the space. So, take it away, my friend.
Yeah, I knew the P word was coming. I knew the placebo word was coming for sure. Yeah, there are a lot of people that claim it's just placebo and whatnot. And, you know, that is why we brought in one of the world's leading researchers to our training. His name is Dr. Conor Murray, PhD. He did some groundbreaking microdosing LSD research out of the University of Chicago. He's continuing his research right now out of UCLA here in California. And he's actually done some amazing research, and you can read articles in National Geographic. You can find it all online, as well as his research study, where he's effectively shown that even in doses of LSD where the person guesses like they got placebo, they're still is seeing improvement in their brain waves. And what's amazing is he just released the new part of his study where he microdosed cannabis and meth along with LSD to see if cannabis did similar things in microdose levels as LSD did to the brain, and it does not. So LSD and psilocybin is there's something really, really special about it and what it does to the brain. So he figured out that around the dose of 13 to 16 micrograms is undetectable for most people, but they see improvement not only in brain waves on the EEG, but also in goal-oriented tasks, which means he gives them things to figure out on a computer screen, and they tend to solve them better with the dose. So, you know, there's research now showing that there's actual improvement. And, you know, I think a lot of people who I work with have seen miracle conditions be cured, from eczema to brain damage to Alzheimer's and dementia. And believe me, they've tried everything before, from meditation to acupuncture to massage to breath work to every psychopharmaceutical on the planet, and nothing has worked. Believe me, they've thought positively as much as they can, and yet microdosing works. So again, it goes back to the fungal intelligence of these mushrooms, or even to something like LSD. We're not going to be able to put into words why it works. We may never be able to quantify it in studies, but I really believe that it's way more than placebo.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a microdoser, I'm a macrodoser, and about every 6 months I partake. And it's similar to functional mushrooms for me. My personal realization was like, okay, if taking, 2-3 grams of this stuff is giving me a wild, psychedelic hallucinogenic experience, and like within those 6 hours working through years of trauma unprocessed until then, and helped me work through my problems kind of like effortlessly. Like, how could it not? I mean, mushrooms in general, that's why I was like, oh, I guess I should eat more mushrooms in general. I should, I got into lion's mane. I take my turkey tail. I like to incorporate just mushrooms into more food. And it's like, how could like any amount has to have some type of beneficial benefit on a body just by nature of how powerful psilocybin is in the macro. How could the micro not give you something? And I'll also add that in our first episode, Riley and I talked about how the mushroom seems to give you what you need, not what you want. And you just listed, Adam, like a bunch of different kind of afflictions and conditions that you have personally seen been positively affected, if not cured, by microdosing. And it's just like we don't necessarily know how it's going to react with us, and it might be different for every person because it's like the mushroom seems to like find what's wrong with you and like and fix it. And it is the benefits are so widespread, it's absolutely wild. um and so I to me, I just like can't see how it could possibly just be placebo effect. And even
Well,
if it is for those people, well, that's a good thing. I mean, hey, then it's worth it either way. But
what's amazing is most people will start microdosing for a reason, and then they'll find a whole bunch of other things they didn't plan on improving in their life improve. So, for example, like Riley introduced me to these amazing NHL guys on the East Coast, and these guys started microdosing to simply improve their hockey game. Next thing you know, they're texting me. They're like, "Hey, man, I stopped chewing tobacco before my game and drinking Folgers coffee. Like, I used to drink coffee and chew tobacco like a nervous wreck. And all of a sudden, tobacco was cut out within 1 week. Coffee was cut out with 1 week. And then next thing you know, the same guy is like, hey, I'm going out to the bar tonight with the guys. And instead of drinking 18 beers, I took 3 capsules. I took, 300 milligrams and I feel great. And I'm not hungover the next day. And so it's like, then he's like, oh my God, my wife has noticed I'm so much more present at home and with my kids. Now my wife wants to microdose. So that's what we see. We see people coming for one thing and then all these other aspects of their life improve.
Danielle, anything to add there?
Yeah, well, there's so much beautiful content here. Thank you all for your perspectives. And I think it's such a personalized experience. I've seen with myself and the clients that I work with that individuals that are really in need, whether it's chronic health conditions, addiction, medication tapering, they probably most likely see such a huge difference with the microdosing compared to extremely healthy individuals. Just to give you an example, when I was withdrawing off of medications, I couldn't leave my apartment. I was completely terrified of leaving my apartment. I would spend weeks at a time inside. When I started microdosing, I could finally go outside. And that to me was profound. But, leaving our house is something that we all take for granted, right? It's like, of course, you're going to leave your house multiple times a day. That's just what we do. But when you're in such a chronic state and you finally have that relief from something, microdosing to me was a complete game changer. It was as profound as taking a large dose of psychedelics for me. So I think we have to look at the context in which individuals are taking the applications and the impact that it's having on their life. And it's going to be so holistic and different for so many different types of populations of individuals.
And so on flowstatemicro.com, I noticed the saying that microdosing is a skill. And so can you talk about the skill of microdosing? What do you mean by that, microdosing as a skill?
Our mission is to professionalize the field of microdosing. Oftentimes, people look at microdosing as, oh, just pop a pill, take a little bit of psychedelics, and go about your day. But we think that it's a lot more nuanced than that. And it's our mission to educate and empower practitioners with understanding all the dimensions that go into properly and ethically supporting individuals through the microdosing experience. We think that we want to train people that it's outside just popping a pill and going about your day, really using the microdose as a tool for growth, as a tool for transformation, as a tool to interrupt addiction, as a tool to understand our sexual selves, as a tool to accelerate our consciousness and really change and grow and evolve. I think that's what we come here to do. We come here to evolve. And if we can empower people with the skills to be able to help their clients do that through the use of microdosing, we're going to see microdosing be incredibly impactful for individuals' lives. I've seen it in and of myself with the people that I work with. Oftentimes I start to work with people that are saying, oh, microdosing is not effective. But then if you actually kind of train them to understand, well, ask them, well, how was your day with the microdose? Did you notice anything? And they might say, oh, I didn't notice anything, but I was nicer to my kids today. Or, I wasn't hating myself today. To have that skill to look at the nuance of how the microdosing is impacting that person is really powerful. And, for individuals that are using microdosing to wean off of psychiatric drugs, there's so many different medications, contraindications. So we're really empowering practitioners to understand how to ethically and properly hold people through that experience. It's, I don't think it's as simple as just take a microdose and go about your day. There's so many different populations of individuals that are coming to the microdosing experience that deserve skilled practitioners to be able to hold them through that, so that we're not creating new harm. One of our mottos is like no new trauma, right? We're really wanting to reduce harm. We're a harm reduction organization. That's why this program exists. And we're really passionate about that. And we also want to reach clinicians. As clinicians, that are working with patients, they take an ethical pledge to be able to support their clients. And usually people go to their doctor and tell their doctor, hey, I want to try microdosing. Most doctors don't know that, how to support their patients through that. And we want to change that paradigm so that doctors and clinicians don't have to turn a blind eye to their patients. We want to teach them the skill of microdosing so they can notice, well, maybe you want to adjust your dosage. Or if someone's having, a difficult time in their life, well, maybe the microdose is bringing up challenging emotions and empowering them to know how to navigate through that, instead of just turning a blind eye, or, a patient having to go to the emergency room if they're having a difficult experience. So those are some ways that we really see this as microdosing as a skill.
For any skeptics watching, have you guys had any experiences with microdosing gone wrong? Have you ever worked with someone where there's been adverse consequences or anything like that? Have you ever witnessed that?
Yeah, I've worked with a handful of clients that have just been so polydrugged and so heavily medicated for so many years that they don't seem to have any effect from the psychedelics. And I don't know if that's because their 5-HT2A receptors are just swamped from all the years of numerous medications. There are just some people that it just hasn't been effective for. So yeah, like I was saying at the beginning, psychedelics are not for everyone. And this is a skill. And the reason we want to train people is because even a small dose of psychedelics is a little bit more serious than an edible per se, right? And so if somebody eats a little bit too much LSD, that could go to a really bad place. Somebody hurts themselves or others, that's really going to set back the movement. Right now, everybody's talking about this Diamond Shrooms company and these chocolate bars, and it's giving microdosing a bad name. And this is an illegal company using a research chemical and passing it off as psilocybin. And that again,
that's what I thought. It's not even actual psilocybin.
No, and that's actually what, I think Double Blind Magazine bought 10 products in California and tested them, and 70% of them weren't even psilocybin. They were 4-HCNO DMT or whatever the cheap chemical everybody is using. But that's why our training is so important, is we're teaching people about what's out there on the black market and what to look out for and how to have your things tested and all of this stuff, because these people are giving our movement a bad name, right? And that's why we're here for harm reduction, because if any of these journalists were writing the article, they would realize this isn't microdosing. This is just some illegal people throwing a chemical into a chocolate bar and ripping off a bunch of clueless individuals. So right now, it's really important for us to educate on these things. And that's one of the things we teach about is knowing your substances, knowing your dosages, knowing, the origins of these medicines, knowing things like peyote shouldn't be microdosed, MDMA shouldn't be microdosed. All of these little nuances are really important to get out into the general public before they really set the movement back. It's already been set back far enough by Nixon's war on drugs and all of the the ways we've misled people.
Mm-hmm. But you mentioned Diamond Shroom's a legal company using illegal compounds. They're kind of a schemer on the market, just trying to capitalize on the interest, and they threw together this product, and it's I think like 50 people reported some serious adverse effects. For those that aren't aware, the FDA put out a statement about it. But psilocybin is largely illegal. And so I wanted to bring that up. Do you think a lot of people are going to be hesitant to get involved just because it's illegal right now? So in certain states like Colorado, Oregon, it is legal. I think California is on the way. I think it's largely, if it's not specifically decriminalized in a lot of places, it's so low on the radar that like I personally I've never been concerned in my life of like getting any type of legal trouble for using psychedelics. I mean, I'm in California. Joshua Tree is pretty much a synonym for psychedelics, and it's a national park, right? So it's like everyone knows I'm going to Joshua Tree. You kind of have an idea what you're doing out there. So I want to get your perspective on that, and yeah, what's the state of that, and is that a concern, the illegality of it?
Yeah, let's first talk about the fact that there are fully legal substances that people can be microdosing every day, like Amanita muscaria and Canna. So we're going to be teaching about that as well. I live in California too. I've been here for 16 years. I was a part of the Prop 215 cannabis movement and the legal movement. Access is not a problem in California. I mean, we've got major decriminalized cities like Oakland and San Francisco. There are churches there that have over 100, 200,000 members who are able to come in and safely access this and get educated on the psilocybin and the substances. Dead and Company is still touring, which means deadheads are all over the world spreading bags of mushrooms and tabs of LSD. So access, really isn't an issue. We are not training people how to give their clients access. We know that people have a way. Nature provides, as Paul Stamets says. People find access to this. And so we're just teaching people how to advise people once they've gained access. But I again remind you that it's not hard for people to access psilocybin. More than 30 million people have tried psychedelics since it was made illegal. So again, we're not training people on how to access it, but people could start right now with Canna or Amanita muscaria, fully legal psychedelic compounds.
Yeah, I actually recently got some Canna, and because I happened to come across it being compared to a natural uh, plant version of MDMA. So I was curious. So I found it on Etsy, and it was like an extra strong extract, and I got it. And I think MDMA is a bit of a stretch, but I certainly after like the first two doses, I was like, I'm not noticing anything, and then I upped the dosage, and then I noticed it, and I was like, oh, this is actually kind of more than I want. And it's not intoxicating in my experience. It's just kind of like I noticed it. Okay, it's there. And it kind of just, I knew I took too much. It just gave me like kind of like a headache, was my experience. But like I did notice it kind of where it's like, oh, I just kind of like, I feel good. Like it's just very similar to microdosing psilocybin. Do you see that increasing in popularity because Kana is legal?
I don't know too many statistics on Kana. I see more and more companies popping up all over the place. So I'm not sure, but what's amazing is that each one of these psychedelics is subtly different, right? When you microdose Kana, it's subtly different than LSD, and LSD is subtly different than psilocybin, and psilocybin is subtly different than maybe Wachuma or San Pedro. And there are all these these amazing different ways that you can use them, you know. And part of the things I really geek out on and I teach is microdosing has ancient indigenous background to all of our ancient ancestors, from the Australian Aborigines to Africa to literally every continent. You know, we have learned to use small amounts of psychedelics to become better hunters, to stimulate us, to allow us to go out there and hunt for longer periods of time in the hot sun without food and water, to forget about the fact that we're hungry and we haven't eaten in a while. So microdosing is probably one of the first hunting hacks and advantages that really helped Homo sapiens excel and begin to evolve and somewhat take over the planet.
Yeah, is that so? That's kind of linked to. Is that linked to the stoned ape theory, or that's just kind of more like factual? We know.
No, it's linked to the stoned ape theory, and you can actually prove out a lot of McKenna's theories tracing it back to indigenous roots. Like, one of his theories is they use small doses to improve visual acuity, to dilate their pupils, and to allow them to see better through the camouflage. Well, the Tacano people of the Amazon learned about the ayahuasca vine from watching the jaguar chew on it. And they chew on small amounts of ayahuasca to get what they call jaguar eyes. So they become better hunters and they can see through the jungle. So the Tacano for thousands of years have, you know, believed that their eyes improved. There was a researcher in 1972 that did a research study with small amounts of psilocybin where he tested people's vision on a computer screen. And he also found that it improved visual acuity. So McKenna proposed that it improved your eyesight and that it made for better hunters. You were stimulated. You needed to eat less. Anyone who's taken maybe a little bit even more than a subperceptual microdose knows that you feel stimulated, knows that you feel energy and you're energized, and could maybe understand how you could go out and hunt for 8 to 12 hours without food.
Certainly. We have about 17 minutes left of the show, and I wanted to get to the program that you guys facilitate and kind of get into the nuts and bolts of that. Let's start with, how can people get involved if they're interested in being a microdosing facilitator?
We are so thrilled to welcome you all to the microdosing facilitator training. We're very honored to embark on this educational journey with you. Our first class starts this Sunday. We have a beautiful cohort of amazing people. Now we're a global community. And our classes start this Sunday, as I said. They're every Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, and every other Thursday. I'm sorry, at 2 p.m. Pacific time, every other Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. We have 16 incredible guest teachers, world-renowned guest teachers, from Dr. Jim Fadiman, who is the father of microdosing. He's the original psychologist and psychedelic researcher that researched microdosing into the public consciousness. Laura Dawn is going to be speaking about psychedelics, microdosing, and creativity. Dr. Manesh Gurn is a leading psychedelic neuroscientist and researcher at UCSF who's working alongside Robin Clark-Harris doing psilocybin research. He is an incredible speaker that teaches about self-motivated neuroplasticity and how we can train practitioners to be able to help their clients really receive the benefits of microdosing and neuroplasticity, and how we can be a participant in that process to grow, evolve, and change our brains. As Adam was mentioning, Connor Murray, who's a neuroscientist who pioneered the first LSD microdosing study at UCLA, he's going to be teaching a class on microdosing research. We have Reggie Harris, who is the pioneer of the psilocybin cup and Hyphae Labs in Oakland Hyphae. They've been doing studies on all of the psilocybin mushroom strains that are currently being ingested in the underground, and have come up with some really groundbreaking research findings to inform our practitioners about which strains are more suitable for microdosing versus macrodosing, and how we can really understand and know our substances when it comes to psilocybin. Courtney Watson is a leading therapist. She's going to be teaching about how we can understand our sexuality and navigate sexual trauma as it pertains to microdosing. We have classes on ethics and specific microdosing facilitation skills, risk reduction, harm reduction. Maurice Bird trains clinicians all throughout the country. He's a harm reduction specialist and therapist who's been working in the field for 20 years. We just have such an incredible faculty of experts. We're going to be teaching about microdosing for addiction recovery. Dr. Ben Malcolm is a clinical pharmacist who teaches about what to look out for as a practitioner around contraindications and microdosing. We've pretty much covered every area of the facilitation experience to create world-renowned experts. We really feel like when people go through our program, they're going to have an expertise in microdosing, and there's so many things you can do with this program. You can work one-on-one with clients, you can facilitate retreats, you can speak at conferences, you can build microdosing courses, and we're going to be having a lot of offerings after the training and certification is over for our students. We're going to provide ongoing support, consultation, and mentorship for our students so that they have a community and network of practitioners that they can feel supported with as they work with clients. We're going to have retreats, conferences, and build opportunities for our students to really get involved in the psychedelic field.
That sounds amazing and very necessary for this continuously emerging, and well, it's here. It's no longer emerging. It's here, and people want to know. People want to do it. I wanted to read this list on the website, which I thought was pretty impressive, because I like when you think of microdosing, who would be a facilitator? You're thinking like, okay, a therapist, a psychiatrist, a doctor, right? You say this training is for you if you identify as healthcare professional, doctor, nurse, naturopath, chiropractor, therapist, social worker, counselor, psychiatrist, psychedelic facilitator, enthusiasts who are passionate about guiding others with transformative experience with microdosing, coach, guide, personal trainer, professional athlete, health and nutrition coach, researchers, scientists, yoga teacher, Reiki practitioner, breathwork guide, massage therapist, spiritual leader, rabbi, minister, pastor, preacher, reverend, chaplain, herbalist, integration specialist, executive coach, and last but not least, college or graduate student.
Yes.
What's great is these are all people that reached out to us in our email and were interested in this. When we did a survey about interested parties, we asked them what was their profession, and we were blown away because we thought we were just going to get professionals and doctors. We have reverends. We've talked to all kinds of different people who are interested in this. So we found that after getting the website up, we had to keep adding all of these different people. We would meet Reiki masters who said, I'm already incorporating microdosing or psychedelics into my work. We were meeting massage therapists that said they're giving their clients microdoses and they're having the best massages of their life. So we were learning from the general public and had to continually add all of these different professions that could potentially add microdosing to their work.
And it's really kind of interesting and refreshing to see. You mentioned like pastors, preachers, rabbis. First episode, Riley and I had a great talk about kind of spirituality. And I think this is such, to me, it's like true communion. It's not symbolic wine and bread. It is a true communion experience with something much bigger and wiser than yourself. Whatever you want to attribute that to, whether it's a species of fungi or divinity itself. But I'm curious, so have you been working with that population specifically?
Yeah, I've worked with them. Which population are you talking about?
Like spiritual leaders, pastors,
yeah.
rabbis.
And Danielle mentioned spiritual leaders even before I thought they were valid. And then we got multiple responses from more than one priest and preacher, men and women. And if you do a lot of the research into the history, psychedelics have always been a part of history and religion, depending on what books you read. So it's great to see preachers and ministers and people within that world who are interested and who are willing to finally accept that psychedelics may have been a part of early religions. I mean, if you go to Egypt, there's mushrooms all over the temples. There are even mushrooms engraved in Stonehenge, and the historians say they're shovel heads. They're not mushrooms, they're shovel heads because we had to dig holes, right? So yeah, I think it's amazing that we have priests and preachers, and I just hope we continue to have more people.
If there's one place I want to macro dose at, it is Stonehenge. Bucket list trip experience. Live Shroom stream from Stonehenge. Me and Riley.
Right.
Riley, you, man, any thoughts on from your end? Because I know you're kind of doing this with clients already as well. So any questions for you in terms about their program?
I mean, I think it's amazing. I mean, it sounds extremely robust. Obviously, services all professions. I mean, this is just shows you how vast this space is, and how it helps so many different people. And a lot of these people already have experience, as you guys kind of talked about, and the appetite to learn more and to dig in a little deeper and just add education to the toolbox, right? I think we're only as good as the knowledge we have, and most of these people have a ton of knowledge already, and they're just trying to just grow their book of knowledge. And I think this is so needed. The world needs this so badly. It's just it's so timely, and the more people that can access this course and just learn from you guys, I think it's extremely important. I don't see anything else. You guys have all said it. In my clients, in the work I do, I haven't seen anything else be more powerful than this. Like you said it earlier, Adam. Like, people have tried this and that and been dragged through the mud with every pharmaceutical drug on the planet, and just can't get their mind straight, can't get it straight, and just almost immediately there's a shift, and it's a catalyst for change, right? It helps us evolve. It just kind of helps us get out of that stuck mud. So don't really have anything to add. You guys kind of said it all. I mean, it's super important. You got an incredible list of teachers, professionals there, actually running the classes, which is super impressive. And anybody listening and anybody that is interested, certainly you check you guys out, because I think this is life-changing stuff. This is game-changing, right? This is people have been waiting for this a long time, and obviously it's been there. It's just been kind of just say dust under the rug, or just kind of hidden in the shadows a little bit. So here we are, bringing it out to the light. So awesome job, you guys.
And I wanted to mention as well, if you go to flowstatemicro.com, we brought up Kana before as a legal alternative to microdosing. You guys sell the functional mushroom blend with a subscription. You have lion's mane, chaga, cordyceps, and maitake, if I'm saying that right. You guys want to talk a little bit about that? About if people, you don't even need to use psilocybin. You can be using functional mushrooms and be getting real positive benefits from it.
Yeah, the lion's mane for your brain, the chaga for your overall immune system, cordyceps for your immune system and energy, maitake. I really think that mushrooms in the next few years are really going to be the vitamin of the future. Lion's mane for the brain. I've seen a lot of clients that, just do well on functional mushrooms, right? So all mushrooms are magic. All of this education work started from a mushroom company, and mushrooms changing my life. So yeah, we're excited to be here and do this. And I met Riley years ago at a large dose retreat in Jamaica, and it just shows you how beautiful and powerful these mushrooms are. Whether it's a small dose or a large dose, there are real uses for them. And I'm just excited to educate future facilitators in this modality.
Yeah, I kick it back to Danielle as well. Any last words here?
I'm just really grateful for Great Spirit for assisting us in this training program. And, we stand on the shoulders of giants that have been doing this work for a long time. A lot of my healing work was with Native communities that have been working with sacred medicines for thousands of years as a part of their cultures. And, I just want to honor the sacred medicines for how much that they've helped me in my life and my addiction and my transformational process. And, we want to help millions of people heal and transform their lives. And we can't do it alone. We need practitioners, skilled practitioners that are out there working with their clients and really empowering people how to heal themselves and how to find their light and how to find their beauty and how to remember who they are and how amazing and powerful they are. And, if you're feeling the call to become a practitioner or curious about it, or now you feel a spark of interest, we want to know you, we want to collaborate with you. We're really excited to welcome people from all around the world to this revolutionary training program. And this is our sacred work that we absolutely love doing. It's an honor to do this work. And we're really looking forward to taking such great care and putting so much intention and making this a fun, exciting experience with this training program.
Yeah, it sounds like one. It sounds utterly fascinating. I'm sorry, Riley, we were about to say something?
No, just agreeing. Yeah, I feel the same way, what you said.
Well, Danielle, Adam, thanks so much for joining us on the Shroom stream. Best of luck with the facilitator training that you said it kicks off this coming Sunday.
This Sunday, July 14th at 2 p.m. Pacific. And thank you guys. Thank you so much for supporting this call today, for your beautiful questions. Thank you to Matthew for, really being such an incredible ally and support. Thank you to Psychedelic Spotlight for being our partner in this training. And we really appreciate the opportunity to share about it today.
Well, we'll have to have you guys on after the completion of your kind of inaugural training and talk about that as well. And I'm sure by then there'll be even more advancements in the science of microdosing. And it's just one of those topics. I think about how much it's easy to get lost in all the conflict, all the horrors of the world. We got a testy presidential election coming up, and it's easy to get lost in that and think, oh man, the world's falling apart. But like this topic, this modality, the acceptance, the reemergence of psilocybin and this knowledge in Western culture is reason to celebrate. It's a huge positive, and no matter what happens in the political global landscape, like we can tap into ourselves, and we have more healthy, natural ways to do it, more accessible than ever, and that is cause for celebration. So thank you so much for my friends for doing the work you do. Thank you for training tomorrow's generation of facilitators who are going to help out a lot of people in one way or another. And I look forward to hanging out with you all again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us, guys.
All right. Guys, this has been Shroom Stream presented by Psychedelic Spotlight. We alternate between Shroom Stream and Body Workshop every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. We didn't have any interaction today, but I do remind anyone watching, this is a live stream. You can comment. You can ask questions. If mine suck, you can ask your own, and we'll put them on the screen. You can talk directly to whoever we're talking to. This is meant to be a community conversation and affair. And so we look forward to being back next Tuesday. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, guys.